Okay, here we go. What I suggest we do to get back in January is a beat drop challenge. If you haven't got a Bandlab account, go and see these guys up here and create an account. It's very easy. It's free. You really don't need any fancy computer software or anything like that. It's a website where we can do all of this. Now, if you've got GarageBand on your phone, or you've got something like Cubase or Logic at home, fabulous, you can do a similar kind of thing, but I'm going to show you the right principles using Bandlab. So once you've got an account, you go to create over here, he said, there we go, and then it will give you all this information here. We will come back to this kind of stuff later on. For the moment, we're just going to go to browse loops. Once we go to browse loops, we're going to have a look at the packs they've got over here. Now I'm just going to use their top one at the moment, which is called Lo-Fi. And I'm just going to go to the top one up there. Here is the thing. When people get the chance to use loads of different loops, they go completely nuts because they hear this. I think, well, I'll have a bit of that. And they go, I'll have a bit of that as well, it's great. And they'll go have a bit of that as well, as great, and we end up with too much going on. So there are some simple basic rules which I would like you guys to follow, and I'll show you how to break those rules in a little bit. So right, that's the one I practiced with, that's the one I'm going to use. So what we do is we take the loop that we like after we've auditioned it and we drag it in to the beginning. What we got to do is get that little arrow. Can you see if I hold my mouse just there, it goes this arrow pointing to the right. That's what we need. And I'm going to be really precise and make sure it's a 4-bar loop. And I'm also going to turn on this button here, which gives me a 4-bar cycle. Let's have a listen so far. Now I've missed, haven't I? So one of the things I'm going to ask you guys to do is make sure that each of your samples lines up with the exact beginning of a bar. So either there, or there, or there. And the bars are these numbers at the top here. Let's have a listen now. I recommend this. One bass line, one drum pattern, and I'm going to make sure this is in the right place. You see that's not quite lining up with the beat 1 there, so I'm going to make sure it lines up with the beat 1. Then I'm going to get my arrow and I'm going to drag it across. Still not lining up. Can you hear that's a little bit squiffy at the beginning there? Let's try that now. Better. Right, so that's working nicely. Now where the things start to get a little bit more complicated is when you do the next thing, which is once you've got a bass line and you've got a drum pattern, you want to do some keys or some guitars. Most of these programs, and it certainly does in Bandlab, tells you what key you're working in. I'm working in E min, which means E minor. And I'm going to make sure whatever I choose stays in the same key. E minor for me, okay? Now it depends on which pack you choose. I'm going to choose these keys here, okay? And I'm going to drop them in. And I'm going to make sure they start exactly on beat 1. And I'm going to use my arrow to loop them. Now that all goes together really, really nicely. Now I use this one as an example, okay? Now this one will work for a little bit and then it will not work as well. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So in the odd number bars, bars 1 and bars 3, it will sound fine. Oh, you can hear that's a bit clashy. So bars 2 and 4 sounds terrible. I'll show you what I mean. I'll use the M button, which means mute. Now that's what we call dissonant, and dissonance can sometimes be a good thing. Not then it ain't. So I can show you what you could do if you're feeling a little bit more adventurous. I had it then. We can shorten it, and then we can use are the same shortcut for cutting and pasting as you use on your computer. I'm using a Mac, so it's Command C, Command V, but you might be doing it on a Windows PC, so you will use your Control C, Control V. Now we can have both. So we haven't got that clash in that bar. So anything in those packs will probably work absolutely fine. So that is stage 1. Once you've got your bass line in place for stage 1, and you've got your drum part in place for stage 1, and you've got some sort of chords coming from keys or guitars, you want to apply the rule of opposites for stage 2. And I've added a shaker loop. Now I'm going to use the S here so that you can hear it. So S stands for solo, which means an instrument by itself or voice by itself. Now this is going to work because I'm applying the rule of opposites. I've got a nice big fat drum sound going on over here, big sounding stuff. And that's nice and crunchy and fat and deep. So if I did something else, which is also big and fat and crunchy and deep, it's going to compete and drown each other out. So I've got something tiny and scratchy and small to go in a much higher frequency range to go with it. So the rule of opposites works really, really well. Another thing that you guys can do as well is go and search in different parts of your Bandlab project. So I'm going to look in loops, and I want a guitar in here, and I am going to try and find something which would go with my key of E min or E minor. Oh, I shudder every time I hear myself say E min. E minor it is properly. And I'm looking down here for something which is E minor. Now I don't think that's going to go. Let's have a listen. And I'm doing my usual thing of making sure it lines up with beat 1. Doesn't go. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that by using my backspace button, and I'm going to find another one for E minor. There's another one in E minor here. Now I like that. Okay, so stage 2 is to add some other loops over the top which you like the sound of. Try and work in the same key and apply the rule of opposites. Phase 1, make sure you've got a bass line and drums and some sort of chords going on and that they don't clash. Phase 2, add some extra little loops to build up your texture so it's a bit thicker, a bit more interesting. And then this is the really important thing if you're going to do a beat droppy type thing, is to start on your structure. Now I appreciate this is the absolute basics, okay, but I'll show you how I would do it. Now we could loop stuff on and on and on and on like that, okay, but I'm going to show you a bit of a shortcut. Well, I think it's a shortcut anyway. So I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to use my cut and paste shortcut, which is Command or Control C. Then I'm going to cut and paste this a few times. And we can scroll left and right. So I'm going to run it. I can keep going and going and going. Okay, now this is going to be nice, but it's going to be a bit dull to listen to after a while because it's all the same thing over and over. that's going to be the same thing again. Not going to keep our interest. So what we want to do is build things up gradually. I suggest, just as a suggestion, you can do it differently if you want, is you can take away the drums, for example, and I'm going to take away some of the more quirky things at the beginning. Okay, don't want those guys, and I'm going to take those guys as well, and I'm going to take that guy away here. So now we're going to end up with our most exciting loud bit. Let's take the shakers as well, okay? We're going to end up with a nice exciting bit here at bar 9. So it's growing, and it feels like when we get to bar 9, we've arrived and it's actually taken on its own momentum. Okay, so that's one little thing which I want you to try. Experiment with the structure. Now we can do some fun stuff after that. We can do things like have a little bit of silence. This is a trick old as time itself, but I'm going to give it 2 beats worth of silence. Okay, I'll show you where it does. So a little bit of silence there works really, really well. And then we can put a few little finishing touches in. Okay, let's have a look for some, let's put a riser. Okay, so let's try look for a riser. Might be, you know, it's funny, but it's not maybe necessarily the right thing for what we want for this track. Shut it. There we go. Okay, so I'll just say I'll put that one in for giggles over here. Okay, now the trick is with these ones is to make sure that it ends in the right place. So let's play it from here. I haven't tried this before. Let's see what happens. Have fun, just make sure you go through the 3 stages. So stage 1 is to make sure that you got your basics in place. 1 bass line, 1 big drums, 1 sort of chords coming from keys or guitars. Stage 2 is to add some special sauce, like some percussion or some extra guitars or other instruments. The trick is to make sure that if they are instruments that play notes, then they are working in the same key. I'm working in E minor. And then stage 3, finish everything off by generating your structure. Okay, cut and paste everything and then drop stuff out. And if you're feeling flash, go and search for a riser and drop one in where you need to. I hope this is interesting. Now, sharing your work, go to publish, give it a name. Hopefully that stays off, boys. And then we press publish and we go to continue. And then all you've got to do is cut and paste this address to my email, to an email to me. Okay, give yourself in the email heading a title, including your whether you are 9HO or 9KI, etc., and then send it to me at my usual email address. Okay, people, have fun.